Okay. My name is Valerie Johnson.
Okay, Ms. Johnson.
And I am from the Division of Social Services.
Okay, yes. So what happened was, generally, my children were unlawfully seized. There was no extreme circumstances. They illegally detained me twice. They created...
I'm sorry, you're speaking of they, and I'm sorry, what was the first thing you said? Children were
unlawfully seized.
Okay.
There was no petition, no warrant. You could, because I've learned that there's this process that CPS is supposed to go through, like do assessments and things like that, and none of that stuff was done. The CPS worker who took my children created allegations, more than the initial report. And in adjudication, they never proved any of it.
Okay, so if they did not prove any in adjudication, what did the judge base his decision upon for the department to keep the children?
They basically copy-pasted allegations to the findings of fact, which is not how it's supposed to be either. You're not supposed to make a finding of fact by just copying and pasting the allegations.
No, you're not. You're supposed to have a trial, and they're supposed to present information, and your attorney is supposed to present information to the contrary.
Right.
What were the allegations, Ms. Blevins, that led the department to become involved?
Some things were like the initial allegation was that I wasn't educating my children because we're homeschoolers. But the Department of Social Services refused to see the evidence of my compliance with the non-public education department, and Miss Diane Allen, the director of the non-public education department, was willing to say, hey, she's got her operation of intent in, she's complying. And I didn't even actually have to start the intent to operate until October.
Okay, so when did you apply to homeschool your children?
I believe it was the 23rd of September.
Okay, and are your children, what age are your children?
11 and...
If they fit between the compulsory education law.
Right.
While I'm asking their ages.
Ireland didn't have to be. My daughter, she's 6, but my son's 11. But I was going to enroll Ireland anyway, because it's better for statistics for the non-public education department to know, like how many kids are out there and what's going on. And I was schooling my daughter anyway, so, might as well throw her in there.
Okay, all right. So with school beginning back in August, did you notify the school of what your intention was, and did they approve that? Because we do have, it seems like maybe there's going to be a period of 3 months that we're missing that the children were not in school.
For homeschooling laws, you do not have to actually, you don't have to put your intent to operate until October, because they recommend a certain amount of time for you to have your children homeschool so they can get the hours in. And the hours don't actually start. You would be running the risk of being outside the law if you did it later than October.
Okay, and I'm not concerned about later. I'm just thinking about that time between August and October that the children were not in school anywhere, or were they in school and you withdrew them closer to October?
They were not in school because we had just moved to North Carolina in July and established permanent residency in July. And then we ended up in a family shelter.
Okay.
So that's why we put our intent to operate, because we had been homeschooling back in Tennessee. So that's why when we finally got into the shelter, they were going to help us with housing, and then that's when I put the intent to operate in.
Okay. And so, in addition to not having the children in school, what were the other allegations?
The other allegations were like she made up that my husband pulled a knife on me in front of my children, and he's never done that. She created that allegation because my husband has scars on his body from when he was a troubled teen, and I didn't know him then. Another allegation was that we were obsessed with religion and God. Another allegation was that I lived in my car with my kids, but I don't have a vehicle. I don't even have a car. I never had I lived back in Wisconsin when I had a car. Let's see what some other ones were. Oh, she talked to my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law wasn't sure or not if I had treated my depression. And so she alleged, the CPS worker actually alleged that I had untreated mental health without even talking to me.
Okay.
And I had talked to.
I'm sorry, continue.
Oh, sorry. I had talked to Miss Diane Allen. They don't, just because children who go to public school are enrolled in, it does not mean that homeschoolers have to be enrolled at the same time as children in public school. They don't have an actual enroll by date.
Okay.
That's why I said October is the very, very latest you could enroll your child, because you have to get that certain amount of time in, a certain amount of hours.
Okay.
I think that was pretty much, we're Christians, and some of our religion was used against us.
Okay. And was any of that religion, did it become an actual CPS issue? Was it anything to the detriment or the well-being or the safety of the children?
No, I mean, we believe in basic immunizations. We don't starve our kids, or we don't do any of that stuff. I mean, it just means that we're involved in church, we're involved in community, we're involved in ministry. But we also believe in spiritual warfare, if you're sick or whatever, we pray for one another.
Okay.
Things like that. And she turned it into me saying, which is a total lie, me saying my husband has a demon in him. It's just absurd. These things that she wrote down are absurd.
And is this Guilford County again?
Yes.
Okay. And who is the social worker on the case? Who is the assessment social worker?
I don't know if this is her real name, the investigative one, but it's Sryrita Miller, Sryrita.
Sryrita.
Yes, that's what's listed. Miller, yes. That's what's listed on the paperwork.
And who is the social work supervisor that signed?
Rhonda, Rhonda.
Rhonda Teal?
Oboh.
Okay.
Oboh. And our current caseworker is Tyree Hooker, Tyreehooker.
Is that a male?
Female. They're all female.
Tyree is a female also, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And the thing is, because I had not interfered with the interview, I actually gave the interview, and I let her speak to my children. I did not realize that, I didn't know my rights at all. I had no idea of any of my rights, and I kept asking about my rights, and I kept asking her to please look at my compliance with the state for education, and she refused. And she got the city police involved and sheriff involved, and this went on for several hours. She did not give me an opportunity to call my friends in Willow Lake, who would have loved to come get us from my mother-in-law's house.
So you're saying she did not give you an opportunity to make a plan for your children?
No, she did not.
Okay.
And then she said all of us were going to go down to the Department of Social Services because I was not going to stay at my mother-in-law's from the shelter, because that's where we went. She actually delayed us so long. My cab fare to get out to my mother-in-law's house was $45 from Greensboro to Pleasant Garden, which is like a 5-minute drive.
Okay, so my question is, why? This is just an aside, but why did the meter start when you weren't in the car?
Because she detained the cab driver.
Okay, but why did he start the meter? You were not in the car.
We were sitting in the cab, and she told the cab driver the cab couldn't leave from the shelter. I think that's why she rushed out there, is because the shelter told her that we were leaving. My husband was in the hospital, and so it was just me and the kids, and we were going back to my mother-in-law's to call my friends in Willow Lake.
Okay. In terms of the actions that you just described to me, the social worker getting law enforcement involved, detaining the cab driver, have you discussed any of this with management at Guilford County?
I did try to discuss with I can't remember his name. He said he was I'd have to look at my notes again, and I don't have them with me here. But I did speak to him about what was going on. But he was
speaking of Mr. Robert Lee.
I can't remember. I'll have to look at my notes again. But it's supposed to be a supervisor over Rhonda Oboe. And what I talked to him about was the fact that my first visitation with my children, my kids were speaking about neglect, and I was very upset. My son's hair was falling out.
Okay. Do you know why your son's hair was coming out?
Because he was emotionally stressed. When my kids were ripped away from me, the police threatened to jail me if I didn't let this woman take my kids. And I was crying hysterically. They were crying hysterically. They pulled them out of my arms. I had to put them in the car. I didn't know where they were until for 2 days. For 2 days, I didn't know where the kids were. And I tried to get a hold of the CPS worker, because I had to research her, because she didn't leave me any contact information, to find out what was going on. And the other thing, too, was I didn't realize state statutes said that you can be with your kids for the first 12 hours of seizure. And then they would have to figure out something like letting them go or for whatever reason.
What statute is that? Because I've never read that.
Yeah, hold on, let me see. Yeah, I think this one's my law book. I just have like laws and stuff all over the place here. They didn't even give me summons right. Like, my lawyer gave it to me after docket call on the 28th. And they were seized on the 26th. There's just like a whole bunch of state statutes I could point out that were not done. No assessments were done. No child planning services were done prior to the seizure.
Well, and those are different things that are going on, Ms. Blevins. I mean, we definitely have some things, but I'm trying to follow. The first thing that I want to deal with is about you being with your kids for 12 hours. I want you to find that for me.
Okay,
you can.
I'm looking right now. Let's see if I had it pegged somewhere. It's like all my laws are all over the place. Look it up online real quick. I can't find it in my book. My court papers are all over the place. I've been having a rough day. Let's see here. My phone's not going to check while I am on it.
That's okay. Maybe we'll talk about that because I am pretty certain that this will not be the last time that I will speak with you. Okay. So you've been to court. Has
Yes.
the adjudication occurred whereby the judge found that the children do need to be in the legal custody of DSS?
Well, here's the thing. I did not know about nobody told me what was going on, like, the entire time. They're just doing stuff without me knowing even what's going on in the process for months.
And did you not have an attorney?
That's hilarious. Yes, I did, and I told her after I started learning about the process and what she had done to me that it was corrupt, that what was going on was amoral, and she said just go with it. She confessed that she had so many caseloads that she couldn't do it anymore, and so she stepped down from my case, and she had an adoption services thank you card in her office window, and I wanted to go pro se because I felt so unnerved by what she had done, but they forced another attorney on me, and he's not doing anything. He's friends with the judge. I asked him to defend our rights and protect us because what had been done was unlawful, from the seizure to the jurisdiction to the secured custody, everything. Adjudication, there was no fact-finding, everything's been so unlawful, and he says just go with it.
So you're saying that your second attorney is saying the same thing, just go with it?
Yes. And I asked him how many court cases he's had in the last year, and he said 500. And I said, how many kids went home? He said 5. So, I mean, this is not a thing where, like, I'm sitting here learning this process, learning these laws and these statutes, and my lawyer's not even caring that they were seized unlawfully, or that the judge didn't put fact finding together based on actual facts. I mean, the DA sat there and slandered my husband, who wasn't even in the room, saying that he's just the stepfather, he's not the dad. And my children, I got married 1.5 years ago. They have never called anyone dad before, but they call him dad. They love him. He's their dad. And to hear all this slander and discrimination and stuff is just, I feel like it's retaliation because I'm asking them to do things lawfully.
Okay. So in terms of that, because words do mean something, Ms. Blevins, when you say they slandered the father, saying that he was not the father, did they say that he was the stepfather, or did they say something defaming against him that presented him in a bad light?
This is what the DA said, and he's not even the dad, he's just the stepfather.
Okay.
And that didn't just hurt me as my husband's wife, but my dad married my mom with 4 kids that were not his own. And he's not my stepdad, he's my dad. I see him as my dad. So, like, it really stung. And why would they even say that anyway? You know? He's not on trial, I am.
I don't know why, but, what they could have said was trying to let the judge know that your husband was not the biological father, which means that unless he has already legally adopted the children, he doesn't have the same stake in it and say so as you do, because he's not the biological father.
See,
I don't know.
that was.
But they usually, the judges always wanting to know what the relationship is between the parent and the child.
Yeah, but that was established at the very beginning. They knew that he wasn't the biological father. What she said was a slanderous statement on top of other slanderous statements in her ending statement. And I wish you guys could really, really seriously hear the recordings, because you would be appalled.
When were the children removed, Miss Blevins?
9/26/16.
Okay. All right. And currently the plan is for unification. What is the visitation plan or the level of contact with your children?
There's none. The first
You are not permitted any contact with your children?
Nope, I'm verbally not even allowed to see my court records.
I said contact with your children.
I know, but I'm not able to contact them whatsoever.
So there are no visits between you and your children?
Not presently. The first visit, I went and complained to DSS the next day about the condition of my children, especially since my autistic son had hair falling out from stress. And when I went back to the second visitation, because I had recorded the first visitation with the caseworker's permission, they said I couldn't record. But I said that it's my right to as one-party consent in North Carolina. And I feel like that was because I had recorded the neglect and approached them about please treating my children better. And so they took visitations away, but a judge reinstated them. And then the second time that my visitation was taken away permanently was I had showed up for visitation, and they tried to put some new person in there, some trainee. There was going to be a bunch of people in there. And I said, can you please not have more than one person in there? I'm not objecting to supervision. I'm just objecting to all these different people, a bunch of people. It's hard on my son for changes with his autism. And I said, I have been silent about dirty, filthy rooms. I've been silent about being shoved into the kitchen because there's been no space for us. You've changed the times a million times for my visitations. I'm just asking for some basic dignity and some compassion. And can you please just grant us this one request? And my kids had voiced their own discomfort at having a bunch of people in there. And they called the police on me. And they took away my visitations.
Was there anything else that happened? Because with you opposing opposition and pointing out the conditions of the space, that doesn't seem like anything that would elevate to calling law enforcement. Did anything else happen?
No. I had asked them to please grant us dignity and compassion, and I think that they thought by calling the police that I would get arrested, but I didn't. The police said that they can't make them be compassionate, and they're not going to arrest me because I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Okay. And so after this encounter, your visits were suspended again?
They were taken away totally.
Has the judge signed off on this? Has the judge okay no visits?
I don't know. I don't get to see any of my court records. I really don't know what's going on.
Has it been to court? That is my question. Has it been back to court, or has your attorney petitioned it to court because you are now without visitation with your children?
I'll be honest, I don't know. They don't tell me anything going on with my case. All I know is I'm supposed to show up on April 8th, and the judge, I also have not signed the case plan because the case plan has adoption on it, and there's some options on there I can't do. And I didn't even get any input in the case plan. They created it without me.
Now, the case plan is a document that is supposed to be completed with you and your husband as the caregivers of the child with the social worker.
My husband and I are separated.
Were you ever asked to participate in the formation of the case plan?
No. We had a meeting, and I basically was told to be quiet. I kept asking what my rights were, and they would not answer me.
And who was in this meeting?
My mom. My husband had showed up to support me, even though we're separated. The guardian ad litem attorney, the guardian ad litem head, the lady who was head of the shelter where my son was, they put him in a temporary shelter for runaway teenagers at 11 years old with autism. The foster caretaker for my daughter, because they split my kids up.
Okay, so you're saying that your son is not in a foster home?
He is now, but he wasn't for months. He was in a shelter.
Did they say that they did not have any homes that were available?
Yeah, that was their excuse, that there was no place that my kids could be together, and he's still not in a therapeutic home. My kids have never been separated before.
When did they locate a foster home for your son?
I had really been trying to request a hearing before Christmas so my kids could come home, and I think it was like just like days before Christmas or something that they finally put him in foster care, like an actual house.
Okay. And so, in fact, I deviated a little bit. I'll go back to the Family Services Agreement, which is also your case plan.
Right.
So that was done without you?
Yes, I sat there while they
discussed at the meeting.
Yeah, I sat there while they all discussed it.
Okay, so you weren't there, but did you give input?
No, I did not get to give input. And no assessments were done either on family strengths or risks of maltreatment.
Did they ask you for any input, Ms. Levin?
Nope. My caseworker actually even lied in the disposition court report, and she wrote that I signed it, but I didn't. I have like a history of emails telling her that I would not sign it because I didn't give input, and I can't do half the stuff. Like my husband has to write down his medications and stuff and give it to them or something, and my husband and I are separated. Like, how's that on me? Because he's not part of the allegations. They're only alleging these things against me. So I don't know why that is even in there.
Okay, at the time that the department became involved in September, were you and your husband together?
We were not.
Okay.
We were living separately.
Okay.
He showed up at the meeting because he wanted to be supportive.
So, what reason has been given to you as to why your visits are suspended? I understand that they are. You said that you thought it was because you asked for dignity and compassion, but what did the department tell you as to why your visits are suspended?
I asked Tyree Hooker what the reason was, and she wouldn't give me a reason. She just said I had to talk to my lawyer, and he never answered me. That's what tactic they've been using lately on me, is they won't answer me. They'll direct me to my lawyer, and he doesn't answer me.
Okay. So currently, in terms of your services agreement that you have not signed, what is designated on your plan that is achievable or something that you can work towards?
I mean, I don't know CPS should not be involved at all. Had they done the proper assessments, they would realize that there is a very low amount of risk in every family in America. But there is no moderate or high risks in my family. I've got an apartment, I have Social Security disability, I have income. I was willing to let the children stay in public school, even if, as long as they were taking care of my son's special needs. He writes banana on his homework. He's really stressed out. But I'd be willing to work with the schools on how to work with him so that way he doesn't have meltdowns with his autism. So that way he can learn. I was willing to do those things. But one thing, they should not have been involved So, I mean, that's not a thing where I can say, what can I work towards? Because our family is already...
I understand that. I understand that that is your position, that the department should not have been involved. However, the department became involved. You went to court. Information was presented. The judge upheld the need for the children to be in care.
Unlawfully, though.
Beyond that point of whether they need to be involved. The question is, because DSS is mandated to provide services, what have they asked you that you can complete? Or are you saying to me indirectly that you don't feel you need to complete anything because they don't have a reason to be involved?
This is the thing. Not only do they not legally have jurisdiction, they do not have established jurisdiction, they have not granted due process to anything. Not to any of the policies or procedures for DSS, not to constitutional law, not to state statutes. I can tell you where due process has just been slaughtered in this case. And there's no excuse for them to, since we're already in it, we're just going to do this. That's not right. That's not right. If there was abuse and neglect there, then yes, I would fully comply with what was going on. But because they did not have jurisdiction, because there was not abuse going on, because
Why do you keep saying they did not have jurisdiction? You were in Guilford County, where Guilford County CPS became involved. That is jurisdiction. Why do you keep saying they did not have jurisdiction?
To establish jurisdiction, you have to follow due process. You have to be protective of constitutional rights and due process especially. That means your court summons has to be in order. There are state statutes that say for child abuse that there's a certain way you have to go about obtaining the jurisdiction, the power, the authority over this family. And if you don't establish that, then basically the family could come back with a civil lawsuit saying, hey, you didn't go by your own rules, you didn't go by the constitutional rights, there's no jurisdiction there. Jurisdiction is basically the authority to be able to intervene.
Oh, I know what jurisdiction is, and you and I have a different understanding of what that is and what has transpired. So you tried speaking to persons at the department, and you said there was a man, but you don't know his name. Have you tried to speak to anyone else about this? And also, apart from saying just go with it, is your attorney concerned at all about the department's involvement?
My attorney doesn't care. He has too much on his plate. He does not care about my case.
Okay.
I have tried to reach out to Heather Skeens. I've tried to reach out to the county manager.
When you say you've tried to reach out to Ms. Skeens, does that mean that you left her a message and have not heard back, or what does that mean?
Yes. I left her a message, and I was trying to get in touch with her because I went down to the department and left her a message with her assistant, and I also left a letter, 2 letters actually, and she never responded to either. The actual establishment of jurisdiction is in the policies and guidelines of North Carolina DSS.
I do know that. I definitely know we have a whole court chapter.
Yeah.
Which, in terms of jurisdiction, which is why I was asking you, why do you keep saying that they do not have jurisdiction? Because apparently the court has given them legal custody, which means that they do have jurisdiction.
No, they do not have jurisdiction. If you go back and look at how things were handled, they don't have jurisdiction. According to policies and procedures of state DSS and the state statutes, they do not.
Okay, well, we are not going to argue about that, Ms. Blevins, because see, one of the things is there are different ways whereby the department can become involved, and just because they did not do it by one way, there are other legal ways whereby they can get custody. And even if the department had not gone about it in the right way, then the judge would have found that there was not a need for the department to have custody, because the way that we look at jurisdiction here is with the court saying there is a reason to be involved, and with the court ordering ordering custody, but that is something definitely for you to discuss with your attorney about the reasons why the department is involved, because what I'm hearing from you now is you don't feel that there is anything that you need to do that the department has asked you to do because you do not think they have a legal reason.
No, that's not it. If you ask me to get housing and I have housing, why would you not give me my children back?
Because one of the things is apparently that was not the only concern. What are their concerns? What have they asked you to do to show that you are stable and can parent your children? I am certain that housing was not the only thing on your family services agreement.
Housing, my husband had to do things. A parent class, housing. My husband had to do certain things, and they could come into my house anytime they wanted, which is unconstitutional.
I'm sorry, do they have that on the family services agreement that they can come in your house anytime that they want it, or did they say frequent communication?
No, they said part of it is unannounced visits. And they already ripped my children away from me and violated my constitutional rights, so I feel like if they came into my house, they'd be raping my rights again.
Okay.
And I'm having...
Do you know that in order for the department to assess your progress, how you're parenting and how you're doing, they need to be in your house to speak with you, look at how you're doing, to go back to the court to
I'm not, ma'am, I'm not an abuser or neglector of my children.
Ms. Blevins, I did not accuse you of being an abuser or neglectful.
Well, then why are you telling me that they would have to come into my home?
Has to make visits to your home.
If I was an abuser.
Excuse me, what are you saying? Because you're talking when I'm talking, and that's not working.
Because you are sitting here saying that because an unlawful judge who stood up in court and told me that my child was her child. She told us parents, your children are my children. And I have a criminal background, background in criminal law, and I'm not afraid to use it against you. And you need to sit in this courtroom and see what they do to families. When the guardian ad litem told one mother, because her daughter was acting out and wanted to come home, that she needed to put her daughter in order so she could be adoptable, because she was acting unadoptable. You do not understand that in this county.
That was stated. I cannot control the things that are stated in the courtroom. What I am trying to do is explain to you that because DSS is now involved and has legal custody of your children,
they have unlawful custody.
That it was done unlawfully. That there is now a process that has to be followed in order to gain custody of your children.
No. That is not right. That is brutality. That is abuse of authority. Do you not understand that? Do you have children?
That is not relevant.
It is. Because if you had children and they were...
We're talking about the law. I am not dismissing your concern for your children. We are talking about the law and the fact that a judge upheld the department's reason for having...
No! It was wrong. It was done wrong. It was not done inside the law. It's like grabbing some random stranger off the street and accusing them of murder and then sending them to death row because you think they murdered somebody. It's wrong. You have to stay inside the law. You have to stay inside of due process.
I do agree with that, but see, what you're saying is that DSS operated outside of the law. And
they
What
did.
I say to you is, Ms. Blevins, is that the judge did not feel so, because otherwise your children would be back home with you.
No, that's not true.
Not involved.
I have a judge retaliating against me. I have an email stating that. You don't understand. I'm reaching out for help because I do not have a judge that is acting inside the law. I have a public defender who's friends with that judge.
In terms of, if your concerns are about the judge, this office has no authority over the judge. That is a judicial matter.
So then why are you not asking?
The DSS.
Why? So are you agreeing that Guilford County is okay being outside the law and taking children?
I cannot say that Guilford County is okay outside the law because based on what you've told me, I don't know exactly what Guilford County did, and I would have to speak with them about what occurred in this case. I cannot only take your word for it and say that they operated outside of the law. What I can tell you is that judges do not uphold...
Oh, yes, they do.
Okay.
Oh, yes, they do. They do it all across America. There are many families out there suffering because unlawful seizures happened, and parents don't know what is going on when they go into the courtroom, because I have never had CPS involved in my entire life. And then I go in there, and I don't know what's going on, and they take my kids and mark down that I consent to it. And I never consented. Never. My mom even showed up that first day of court, so if something could be resolved, they could go home immediately with her. And they didn't. They didn't even do ICPC for my mom, who's raised 6 kids in half the neighborhood, until the end of December.
Well, one of the things in terms of that is they do an ICPC at different times and different stages in the case. Did your attorney request that they do an interstate compact?
I asked for them to go home to my mom that first day. And my attorney wrote down that I consented to DSS custody. I never consented to DSS custody.
Well, if your attorney wrote that down, then that is an issue on your attorney's part and not on the department's part or the court's part. Did you tell the judge that you did not consent?
I didn't know that it was written down that I did.
Okay.
Ma'am, when they ripped away my children, I spent 6 days on the streets, and I have never been on the streets before. I was so emotionally torn up, I didn't know what was going on. I just know that my mom was there, and if my kids could go home with her, that's what I needed. I didn't know my lawyer was going to be crooked, and...
That day in court, Ms. Blevins, they didn't know anything about your mother, and they had to do an assessment, but that was not going to be achieved on the same day.
Yes, if you go into state statutes, you will see that they could have gone home with my mother that very day.
Ms. Blevins, I know what the options are, but what I'm telling you is the department before the department took custody, did your mother come and pick up the children?
No, because Serena Miller didn't give me a contact number. I was trying to find out who she was and where my children were.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you is when DSS had custody, they had custody of the children, even though at that time before the hearing it was not secure custody. They were not going to release the children on the same day to your mother, not knowing anything about her as a person. Yes, you can.
No, ma'am. State statute said that they could have given my children. No, that is a lie. If you go into state statutes, you can see that the children could have been taken by my mom. Because at any point in time, they could have released custody in that first 12 hours.
No, it wasn't the first 12, and that's what I'm telling you. It was not the first 12 hours when you were in court. It was after that time period. I know what the statute is, and that's why I'm discussing those with you, and I asked you. So at court, when you went to court, it was not within the first 12 hours, Ms. Blevins. It was after that time.
They could have released my kids to my mother, whom they've lived with, their grandmother. You don't need to vet my mother. Their grandmother.
They have custody. Yes, they do.
And they seized my children unlawfully. So technically DSS has no jurisdiction and should not have interfered in my family. Do you know any of the constitutional rights that you have?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I do know the constitutional rights and I know our statutes. And just because you read them does not mean that you correctly understand them. And I'm telling you what child welfare law is, but you are having difficulty with that and telling me that I'm wrong. So I'm not quite sure sure exactly how this is going to proceed, I am more than willing, Ms. Levis, to follow up with Guilford County and to learn the reasons for their involvement, what has transpired, what the concerns are regarding you, if they are looking at your mother for placement, if they've asked for an IPTC.
Yes, they have. They're making my mother, who raised 6 children and half the community growing up, take a parenting class for 2 months, while my children are in the homes of strangers for 2 more months. So the county can get more money from having my children for 2 more months. Did you know the average stay of children in foster care for the last year of the Court Watch statistics for Guilford County is 18 months? Whether you've neglected your children or not, they take 21 children a month on average. They don't care about families. There's a woman who just had her rights terminated. She did everything in her plan. She didn't use drugs the entire time, and they sat there and terminated her kids after professionals spoke up for her. Guilford County is a very, very unlawful place, and I need help. Our families here in Guilford County need help. Our rights are being taken. When we're not abusing our children are still being taken. And we don't have anybody to turn to get a help. So when you sit here and I poured over, I was a mother for 100% of my children's lives. And when I sit here for months and months and months pouring over the law, disgusted, where this department I had faith in, I thought actually helped families, interferes in my life and is breaking laws left and right, I'm asking for help. I'm desperately asking for help. My children do not deserve this, and I do not deserve this. This is all very wrong.
And I hear you, and I will definitely follow up with Guilford County to learn why they are involved, what has occurred. I will review the process with them as how your children came into care. I will ask if they gave you an opportunity to make a plan for your children. What is the name of the people that you said lived in Willow Lake that you were not allowed to call?
My phone had died, and I asked them to let me charge it up so I could call my friends. They're the Osagata family. We had lived with them before.
Why didn't you ask them to use their phone?
Because my phone number was in my phone. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I have fibromyalgia, and my memory.
I understand.
Yeah.
That you didn't have the number written down anywhere else.
Yeah, and she wouldn't let me charge it up. She said, we're all going down to DSS, and I'll let you charge it up there. And I said, okay. And then I brought my kids' bags out.
Okay, I can understand that. I understand you're upset, but I have no idea what you said when you went down to DSS.
She said that we were all going to go down to DSS, and I brought my kids' bags out, and she said I'm just taking the kids.
Okay, so she told you that you were going down to DSS. She thought it was going to be for a conversation, and when you got to DSS, the social worker...
No, I didn't get to DSS. No, she just took my kids. I was at my mother-in-law's house, and then she said, when my phone was dead.
Did you go down to DSS with them?
No, I didn't get to. She drove off with my kids. I watched a stranger drive away with my babies.
Okay, where did she pick up the children from?
From my mother-in-law's house.
Okay, so you were at your mother-in-law's house with the children. The social worker came there. So
No.
She did not invite you to ride down to the department with her?
No, we were at the shelter when she came. I was leaving the shelter. And I was going to my mother-in-law's so I could feed my kids and call my friends from Willow Lake and so they could come pick me up.
Okay. So you weren't actually at your mother's house. She picked you up from the shelter.
No, I took a cab from the shelter to my mother-in-law's in Pleasant Garden.
Okay, so you and your children got in the cab and you went to your mother-in-law's house.
The CPS worker actually detained us. She detained us at the...
I understand you said it was $45, but where did the CPS worker pick up the children from?
My mother-in-law's house.
Okay. Okay. And when she came to pick up the children at the time from your mother-in-law's house, when you were going down, at that time, did she have a court order?
No.
Or did she talk to you about a 12-hour hold?
No. She didn't tell...
What time was it when she picked the children up?
I can't remember the exact time, but I know it was getting dark. The count started a little bit around 4. Because we had just gotten back from the library and we did some reading and writing at the library.
Okay, so sometime after 4.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, Ms. Blevins, is there anything else? Because I know what my follow-up is going to be with the department. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I feel like when I read the CPS book about what caseworkers should be doing to help families and stuff, that they're supposed to be kind of like cheerleaders and grant hope, and you know, it's a very, very beautiful policy. It's a very, very beautiful book. I think it's wonderful. But I wish that it would actually be followed in Guilford County, because then I feel like I wouldn't feel like this is just a huge attack on my family and a loss of rights, and hurting my kids if things were done the way that in that handbook. It's just I think due process is a law in place for a reason. It's to not hurt us. And I think that was abused, and I think that our family's really hurting and we really need the help. Because it's not hurting because we had issues, it's hurting because due process wasn't there for CPS, and we need that. And families in this county need that. We need our CPS in this county to actually follow state policies and procedures, because, like I said, they're good. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort to make those policies and procedures.
Yes, and we're doing rewrites now. Let me say to you, because you've read portions of the manual, I don't know how thoroughly you've read it, but in reading the manual, especially if you've read the chapter on the court and child welfare, I want to be clear to you that this office, the Division of Social Services, does not have the authority to tell DSS to return your children. That authority lies with the court now. The court is the only one who can send your children back home to you. I will very thoroughly review with the department how they became involved, what led them to become involved, what the concerns are. I will go over how the children were taken and removed from your home, if they did in fact give you an opportunity to make an alternative plan for the children, what is occurring with your mother who may be an option. I will do all of that, but please hear me clearly in saying, if your children are going to be placed back in your home, that decision comes from the court of law. This office has no authority over the court system.
But I know that you guys can ask the department in our county to follow the rules.
Oh, definitely.
You know.
And that's why I said we were going to review that, because given that you said that they did not follow the rules, I cannot take that as fact. I will have to ask them what it is that they did to determine if they did follow relevant child welfare law, rule, and policy in the handling of this case. Yes, they are to adhere to the policies that we have in place.
Okay, thank you for calling me. This is just it's hard to grieve for family members who are still alive. And I love my children. This has just been very hard on our family.
And I can only imagine that. So, I do appreciate you speaking with me. They will receive a call next week, and as soon as I have spoken with them, I will follow back up with you in terms of their assessment of the situation and steps that they are taking forward to make it less painful for you, as well as also looking at possible placement in terms of your children potentially going back with your mother. Because the first thing that I want to do is see if we can get the visitation reinstated, if that is possible. Because with your son having autism, and I know all of the things that go with that because I used to teach autism, that it's going to be important for him to be able to see you and connect with you and to know that his entire world has not changed entirely. So I will speak with them about that and trying to lessen the trauma of the parent-child separation.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I hope as much as possible you will have a good weekend, and I will call you back once I've had an opportunity. I will call. Sometimes you're able to speak to me on the same day. Usually it takes a day or two. But as soon as I've spoken with them, if I've needed to read any information that I've had not back to me, we will have that discussion, and then I will call you back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.